My stepsister is allergic to my food. I didn't know that. My husband started spanking me because of this. Should I file for divorce? My husband, a 36-year-old man, and I, a 30-year-old woman, have been married for 6 years. We have 2 children, a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. Currently, I am a stay-at-home mom, Sam. Although we didn't discuss this arrangement before marriage, when our daughter was born, I found it impossible to juggle working, taking care of her, and managing all the household chores. There were times when I needed help at home, but I felt unable to ask for assistance because I wasn't contributing financially. It was also very challenging for me to be financially dependent on my husband. I never requested anything for myself because he occasionally expressed feeling a lot of pressure as the sole provider. Fast forward to 3 days ago. My husband's younger sister, who lives in another country, informed him last week that she would be visiting. She typically comes to town once or twice a year. My husband and I invited the family over for dinner. We were all enjoying ourselves when my sister-in-law started coughing and had difficulty breathing. At that moment, I realized she had a severe peanut allergy. I later learned she had experienced anaphylactic shock a few times before. We all rushed to assist her. Suddenly, I felt a slap on my face from behind. Not very hard, but it did sting. Because I was facing away from my husband, I didn't see it coming. As I tried to explain that no one had informed me about her allergy, I had only seen her a few times after the wedding and had never cooked for her before, he continued to yell at me. I pointed out that since he knew I would be doing all the cooking for the evening, he should have thought to tell me about her allergy. In response, he pushed me down onto the couch and smacked me on my arms, back, and the back of my head. His family quickly intervened and stopped him. They checked on me for a minute to see if I was okay, then returned to my sister-in-law's side. However, my older brother-in-law stayed with me to ensure I was all right and to offer any help I might need. After a few minutes, my husband came back into the living room behaving as if nothing had happened. My brother-in-law asked my husband if he had ever informed me about their sister's allergy before. My husband didn't respond. I told them that I was unaware of the allergy until that moment. My in-laws checked on me once more before excusing themselves, leaving only my older brother-in-law with us. He asked if this was the first time my husband had laid hands on me. With my husband sitting across from us, I couldn't bring myself to answer. He suggested that we take some time to process and reflect on what had just occurred. That night, I left with my brother-in-law and took my kids with me. I am currently staying with him and his wife, as my family lives in another country. Both my brother-in-law and his wife have advised me to stay with them until my husband truly understands the gravity of his actions. My husband has since apologized, explaining that he panicked and was scared for his little sister, whom he is very close to and has always looked after like a father figure. He kept insisting that if I cared enough about his family, I would have asked him about any allergies since I was the one cooking that night. He also blamed me for his brother's reaction. I am at a crossroads and unsure of what to do next. I don't have any relatives nearby to stay with while I sort things out. I only have one friend here, but staying with her isn't an option. Growing up in a household where being grabbed by the face or arm was considered normal, what happened that night felt excessive and unacceptable. I want to prioritize my children and ensure I don't lose them due to my decisions. Yesterday, my husband suggested we try couples therapy. I'm torn between considering a divorce or letting this incident slide and starting therapy. I need to carefully think through everything because I know my family won't support my decision, leaving me to navigate this situation on my own. Update. Many of you advised that I stay with my brother-in-law, but I found it difficult to ask him for help directly. Last night, he approached me and asked if we could discuss the situation. I shared some details with him, although I couldn't reveal everything at once. I explained that this wasn't the first instance of such behavior, and the only new aspect that night was the slap. I asked if he could help me find a safe way out because I'm afraid to return and need assistance in locating resources. Both my brother-in-law and his wife assured me that my children and I are welcome to stay with them until I can get back on my feet. They emphasized their willingness to support us in any way possible. My brother-in-law mentioned that I have the right to decide how to proceed and even offered to drive me to report my husband if that is what I choose, though he asked not to be involved directly. I understood his position and thanked them for their support, promising to look for a job as soon as possible. He also mentioned that my mother-in-law had offered to pay 3 months' rent and childcare if I decide to leave, but he believed it would be better for us to stay with them for now. He assured me that he would ensure my mother-in-law follows through with her offer once I find a job, as it would be more helpful then given the challenges of working and taking care of the kids. He told me not to feel indebted to them because he would have done the same for me. He reminded me that we met through him when I worked with him for 6 months, and he doesn't want my children to grow up wondering why no one loved them enough to help their mother or risk them becoming victims or abusers themselves. His words made me reflect on why I continue to justify or accept blame for my husband's actions, especially when my brother-in-law referred to his own brother as an abuser. Although I am not planning to involve the police at this moment, my brother-in-law's wife is helping me document everything. She took pictures of the marks on my body as soon as we arrived at their house. She is also assisting me in getting my husband to admit to what happened that night and before. So far, I have 2 text messages and 1 recorded call, along with other photos I had taken previously. I never planned on using this evidence, but she advised that documenting everything now could be useful later, citing safety concerns as a valid reason for any delay. This morning I called my parents to inform them of the situation, but they were not supportive, which was expected. I knew they wouldn't take in a divorced daughter with 2 children. Later, my cousin called and was saddened by my situation. She promised to send some money to help us out. Although I have never asked for help before, I found myself ready to accept her offer. My primary goal is to make things work for my kids, because I don't want to lose them. By the way, both my brother-in-law, Bill, and his wife have been incredibly supportive by allowing me to stay with them without any financial contribution. They also help with household chores. If I cook, either my Bill or his wife does the dishes. They both work and share the chores equally. Yesterday, I only did the laundry and some cleaning around the house, and they insisted that I do nothing for dinner. While I'm grateful for the time to rest throughout the day, I can't shake the feeling that I should be doing more since I'm not contributing financially. I also want to mention that I am planning to see a lawyer this week to understand my options and start the divorce process. I'm hoping this will help me take the right steps to ensure the safety and well-being of my kids. Additionally, I plan to start looking for a job this week, but I need to get my documents in order first. I am beyond thankful for everything my in-laws are doing for me, but I am still scared. I don't even know what exactly I am scared of now that I have decided not to go back to him. Yesterday, I couldn't close my eyes and get any sleep. Whenever I close them, I imagine my kids getting hurt. To be honest, I still feel like at some point I might mess everything up, but I hope I don't. Okay, next story. Aita, for telling my husband that his insecurity is costing us money. Back in late 2021, my husband Craig, M46, and I, F44, welcomed our 4th child into the world. Consequently, we needed to upgrade one of our cars to something larger. We decided to trade in my super reliable Toyota RAV4 since I was the one who drove the kids around most often. I was open and ready to embrace minivan life and was planning to buy something reliable and safe, like a Honda or Kia. However, Craig had his heart set on an SUV. In his mind, minivans were too feminine. Despite my better judgment, we ended up purchasing a used 2018 Mercedes GLS 450, mainly due to his insistence. He argued that this car would offer similar space to the Kia Honda minivans I wanted, but with added luxury. Since it was priced like a loaded Honda van, we went ahead with it. After 2 years, I can safely say we made the wrong choice. While the car does have good passenger space, it doesn't seem to have as much cargo room as those minivans. The reliability has been junk. The car has had 8 recalls during our ownership. Even when not recalled, it spends too much time at the dealership because something always seems to be broken. Some repairs have been covered under warranty, but we've still shelled out over $9K, maintenance not included. The car hasn't even racked up that many miles. The shifting can be rough. Sometimes I press on the gas and the car barely moves, and when it does, it's jerky. For the past few weeks, the check engine light has been turning on randomly. There are numerous electronic issues. Since the car's problems have intensified in the past few weeks, I'm beyond fed up. I don't feel safe driving it around with my kids, and I've even started having nightmares about it stranding us in the middle of nowhere. Craig always downplays this and claims that it's normal for the car to have some issues. To make things worse, Craig's sedan has also started developing problems lately. It has begun refusing to start some mornings and will sometimes shut itself off when it comes to a stop sign or red light. On Saturday, I was supposed to drive our eldest to his soccer game and then take my younger kids to the doctor's office. When I turned on the Mercedes, it sounded very rough. The engine light was on and the temperature reading was extremely wrong. I didn't want to risk it, so I ended up Ubering with the kids. I told Craig about it that night. He listened at first, but when I suggested selling it, he cut me off and said that he wasn't getting a van just because I wanted one. The way he said it was so combative and defensive, and because I was so tired from the day, I lashed out. We argued, it got heated, and I ended up saying, "Your fragile masculinity is costing our family so much money." In retrospect, maybe my tone was harsh, but he was being needlessly difficult. We haven't really spoken much since then. I'll also be Ubering to work this week since I won't be touching that car. AETA? Husband's Perspective, May 14th, 2024. My wife showed me the post she made this morning so that I could see how people were reacting to her perspective. I was honestly quite surprised by the comments, so I asked her if I could make a follow-up post to clarify my position. Firstly, I want to emphasize that I did not buy a lemon, as some people seem to think. We had the car inspected by a mechanic before purchasing it, and the Carfax report we obtained was clean. I understood that my wife, let's call her Ava, would be the primary driver, but I wanted a car with some ground clearance and AWD since we sometimes drive along dirt roads when we go on vacation, and renting a car for these instances didn't seem practical. In my mind, this requirement ruled out the Honda or Kia minivans. Additionally, I feel that a minivan is unnecessary for us as we only have 4 children. I'll admit that I have a personal bias against minivans because they are exclusively mom cars. The Mercedes, on the other hand, has been expensive to repair and does experience frequent problems, but when it is fully operational, it is an excellent family cruiser. I understand that it's unreliable, but I think the idea of it stranding my family in the middle of nowhere is a stretch. Now onto the day of the argument. I was at work on Saturday, so I was unable to take the kids to their activities and appointments. When Ava sent me a picture of the gauge cluster of the Mercedes, I did offer to come back home and drop off my car for her to use, but she declined for 2 reasons. Firstly, she didn't think it would have enough space. It is a 2017 Chevy Impala, so it has a lot of space. And secondly, she was wary due to a minor stalling issue. At that point, we agreed that using an Uber was the best solution. Saturday night, I arrived home exhausted from a long shift at the hospital. All I wanted to do was eat dinner and catch up on the Spurs match. It was around this point that the argument occurred. I did try to be supportive. However, I still hold reservations about owning a minivan, and I felt that her comment about masculinity was both unhelpful and unnecessary. Call it poetic justice, if you will, but this morning when I was getting ready to take the kids to school and daycare, my Impala wouldn't start at all. Now we have 2 broken cars, and the entire family is relying on Uber. It can't be the battery or alternator since both were replaced within the last year, so I haven't got a clue what it is. I've accepted my wife's point of view, and will be looking at new car options later this week. She's very pleased about this, and has mentioned that she considers this acceptance as an alternative to an apology from me. However, now she wants us to replace both cars. As for the lip balm and the purple shirt, my opinion is that most lip balms look too much like lipstick, and I don't find them hygienic since you essentially rub your old germs back on every time you use them. The shirt in question was more pink than purple, and more than that, it was far too tight for my liking. I hope this clarifies things and provides a better understanding of our situation. Update. Craig and I were able to put the issue regarding the Mercedes behind us, and for the past week we've been working towards finding a replacement. He was still leaning towards an SUV, and while I considered his opinion, it was ultimately my decision to make. After shopping around for a few days, we purchased this lovely black minivan on Friday. In the short time we've owned it, I can confidently say it surpasses our Mercedes in essentially every way. The comfort is superior, the technology is better, but most importantly, It accommodates the whole family and all our belongings with space to spare. Beyond that, I feel safe transporting my children or just running errands. Craig has also admitted that the minivan was a better choice. He has read many of the responses from previous posts and acknowledged that wanting an SUV, despite the current size of our family, was a bit impractical. He's even opened up to potentially using lip balm. However, the purple shirt I liked is still a no since he thinks it's too snug-fitting and more pink than purple. He has been in a good mood since Arsenal lost or something, which I guess partially explains his newfound agreeableness. Currently, we only have the one working van. We will be taking the Mercedes into the garage at some point in the future, and then hopefully selling it shortly after. Additionally, Craig's personal car will also need some repairs. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.